and welcome to another informative and interesting session of our Europe and UK Scholarship Series, which is an initiative of the Agri Scholars Mentoring Hub. This series was created as a platform to provide practical guidance for students seeking scholarship opportunities, especially within Europe and the UK. I'm Homobolanle Kalinikonshi, the host of the Europe and UK Scholarship Series. So, if this is your first time joining us, you are in the right place. And if you are a returning viewer, you are also welcome. We are always glad to have you join us for every of our live session. And in case you are interested in watching any of our previous session in preparation for the next scholarship series, feel free to check our YouTube channel. And when you do, kindly like, comment, subscribe to get updates on our scholarship series. So for today's session, we'll be focusing on the Allan and Nesta Ferguson Scholarship, which is one of the most strategic pathways to studying in the UK. So in this session, we'll break down how the Ferguson Scholarship across different UK university works, the types of program and field that you can apply to, what are the eligibility requirements and the application process. So what is the main differences between the universities that are in charge of the scholarship program, and what are the practical tips in securing the scholarships. But before we dive into today's session, I would love to know who is joining us for our live session. So if you're out there, kindly introduce yourself with your name and the country to which you are joining us from. Let's know if you're a first-time viewer or a returning viewer. We'd like to welcome you for today's session. And peradventure, you know anyone who is interested in studying in the UK, this is a good time to share the link of the scholarship session with them. You never can say this might be what someone in your network needs in navigating their scholarship journey. And while we are doing that, we would also like to officially start this program with a short opening prayer, because I know people are still going to join us, but then let's just try to keep to time. Our Father and our God, we thank you for this session. Thank you for the grace and the opportunity to be alive, to be able to host this session. Thank you for the speaker you've prepared for us, and thank you for the wisdom to which we are going to glean on. Father, may your name be praised. And for everyone that will be joining, give them the clarity that they need to be able to navigate their scholarship journey from this session. For in Jesus' mighty name we've prayed. Amen. So thank you so much. Like I said, I know people are still trying to join into the session, and I believe we are going to have people join us. And I can already see someone from YouTube. This is, I believe, is Chukuma. Thank you so much for joining. You are welcome. Yeah, I can see I am Ede Chukuma joining from Nigeria. So thank you so much, my Nigeria brother, for joining us. Please do well to repost and share this link with others so we can have more people join us for the session. While we are still waiting for others to join us, I would like us to proceed with today's session. And to the next stage of this session is like introducing the speaker. So it's my pleasure at this very moment to officially introduce our speaker for today's session in person of Collins Audi Owuor. I hope I get the pronunciation. I thought he was my Nigerian brother, but surprisingly, he told me he's from Kenya. So anyway, we are all from the same African continent. So it's a pleasure to have you on board with us, Collins. Just to read out his bio, Colin Audi Owuor is an Allan and Nesta Ferguson Scholarship awardee, currently pursuing a Master of Public Health in International Development at the University of Sheffield in the United Kingdom. He is passionate about generating and applying research evidence through epidemiology or statistics and international development approaches. to improve health outcomes and reduce health inequalities in low and middle income countries. So, with over 4 years of professional experience, Collins has worked across international and national organizations supporting humanitarian and healthcare interventions, particularly in emergency medical response and refugee protection. His work focused on translating, evaluate, and on translating and evaluating data into actionable insights that inform healthcare policy, program implementation, and evidence-based decision making. So, Collins, thank you for joining us for today's session. And I don't know if you want to take a seconds to just say hi to our audience out there.
Thank you very much, Omobolanle, for organizing this event. And I'm so glad to meet everyone who has joined. And I'm looking forward to have great conversations with you all. And as you've said, my name is Colin Owuor, and I'm currently pursuing a Master of Public Health in International Development at the University of Sheffield in the UK. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Collins. It's nice to have you, at least a recent awardee of the Allan Scholarship, and you have a most recent experience on how to navigate this scholarship process. Just to open the conversation for today, I would like to ask at how did you actually come about the Allan and Nesta Scholarship? Like, how did you discover it? It's not something like really popular or known out there to many aspiring scholars. So I'm just curious, could you tell us more about how you discovered this scholarship?
So my main route of identifying scholarship opportunities was on LinkedIn, and I followed various pages that I felt were so useful in providing updates on scholarships that are open. So one of them is the Management Diary. Then we also have Victor Agboga from Nigeria, who shares really great opportunities and updates about study in the UK and other parts of the world. So, to be specific, I got this update from Victor, and I went straight to his YouTube channel and I saw different scholarships that were open. That was last year around February. And while going through the list of opportunities he shared, I was able to particularly spot the Allan and Nesta Scholarship uh, at the University of Sheffield. And also we had another one that I was really interested in another university called City St. George's, University of London. So I applied for the two. Yeah.
Wow. So that's interesting. I think I love your scholarship route of your discovery route for scholarship. Let me put it like that. So I think for our audience out there, I'm always big on saying like if you are not on LinkedIn as an aspiring scholar, I think you are a bit missing out because this is where we have most scholars, most professionals out there posting about scholarship opportunities, and this is one place you want to be able to easily identify opportunities. And just like Collins have mentioned, these are people that share a lot of updates. I know Victor Agboga is very good on that, and the diary management in person of Joseph Omai. So he's the one that also share a lot of scholarship opportunities on his YouTube channel. So you want to be on LinkedIn, you want to be on YouTube to be able to have access to information that you are really looking out for. At times you might not always get everything on Google, but then all these opportunities are just from one person to another. One person shares this particular opportunity and the other person reposts it. So it's always good to also be intentional when you are searching for scholarship opportunities. So thank you. And I think that's one lesson I just quickly want us to take away from your personal story. So going straight into the Allan and Nesta scholarship, can you briefly walk us through the scholarship overview, like what does it entails? How does it partners with university? How can students get this? So just give us a quick overview about what the scholarship is all about.
So, Allan and Nesta Trust was established around the 1970s, and it is more of a foundation that partners with various learning institutions and also charities in the UK to provide various opportunities for disadvantaged groups. And now one of them is education by partnering with several UK universities. So in the UK, like they do have partnerships with universities such as the University of Leeds, the University of Sheffield, the University of East Anglia, the Manchester Metropolitan University. We also have the Aston University, and yeah, I think I've mentioned all. So it partners with various learning institutions to improve access to education among aspiring students from, especially from low and middle income countries. Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's very, very straightforward. So if you are out there now, you already learned that, okay, this particular scholarship is not limited to one particular university. At least it was able to mention five different universities. But Collins, in between, can you tell us as well what does the funding actually covers, and is it specific to a particular program in each of these institutions? So, or it covers for every programs that maybe for someone that is studying law, can I apply? Someone studying medicine, is it open to all programs? Just give us a in-depth details more about the scholarship.
So let's start with the funding. So the funding, in terms of the funding package, it also varies by university. So you may find that the package that the University of Sheffield is offering is a bit different from Leeds, from Aston. So for instance, Sheffield is offering full tuition fee coverage and also stipend that is estimated to be able to cover your living cost across the study period in the 12 months of study. And other universities calculate, I think they do calculate this living stipend for living cost depending on the cost of living of that city. For instance, the cost of living in Sheffield may differ from the cost of living in Leeds or the cost of living in other cities where these universities it funds are located. So, like now, Aston, for instance, let me just see, it offers a full tuition fee cover of 22,500 and contribution of 6,000 towards living cost. For other universities, you may even find that they don't cover living costs, but it's very rare. Most of the universities funded by the fund do cover both the living cost and the tuition fee. Although some universities may pay for visa cost and also travel expenses, majority of them some of them do not cover. I would not say majority because I'm not very sure, but especially now like Sheffield, you have to cover your own visa cost and also the travel cost. So it depends. Again, it varies from university to university. Last time I checked, Leeds was offering also the visa was covering also visa cost and one of travel. So it varies. But I think the Leeds one is closed currently, but I may need to recheck. Yeah.
All right. So thank you so much for that. But I think, yeah, it still remain the second part of the question. Like, is it for all programs in each of these institutions or specific programs?
So For most of the institutions, there are specific programs that have been shortlisted for the funding. It's not all programs. So, for instance, at the University of Sheffield, they can only fund about five uh, programs: international development, international law and global justice, international political economy, global journalism, and international public and political communication. For the Aston University, I see definitely, yeah, they have their own programs that are eligible for this fund, and these are MSc in Pharmaceutical Sciences, MSc in Drug Discovery, MSc in Pharmacokinetics. So they have specific list of programs. The same to Manchester Metropolitan. They have their own list. Like now, the MSc in Robotics and Automation, MSc in Engineering, Project Management, MSc in Digital Design and Manufacturing. So they have specific programs. Before you apply, ensure that your program is eligible or your program of interest. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for that details. And I think just to sum it up before we go to the next question, the Allan and Nesta Ferguson Scholarship actually partners with certain institutions in the UK to support aspiring scholars from the low and middle income countries. And again, they also have specific programs in these institutions that they fund. So it's up to you to check out for these universities and also check out for the programs to which they are funding. And like he also mentioned, it's more like a fully funded scholarship, but then it varies between one institution to another institution because of the city in which these institutions are located. So we want to be sure that we are giving you the right information, and you can always double check every of these things out there on your own. So yeah, thank you so much for that first part that actually sets the tone for this particular scholarship we are looking into this evening. Okay, that takes me to my next question, which is about the major requirements. I know like it's going to differ from one university to the other university, but then what are the key requirements if we look at something that is going to be common to each of these institutions that is actually needed for the application, so that maybe aspiring scholars that is out there can start preparing their documents maybe for a particular institution that is currently opened and they want to apply for this scholarship. So you can tell us what are those general requirements that might link up to every of these institution or might even differ per institution as much as you can see on that.
The requirements for this fund, I would say number one, this is the most straightforward scholarship I've ever found. You will not have like complicated application process. So now the common requirement that is even common with other scholarships is that you have to have applied for your program of interest in advance and received an offer to pursue this program. So before you apply for this program, check at the university website and look at the program page and look at the different modules they're offering and ensure they align with your interest before you make that application. Once you make the application, I mean, during the application, you are supposed to attach some common documents, of course, for a standard UK program application, and this includes things like the personal statement, your CV, your references, which is common almost to all UK universities. Then we also have now like the English language requirement, the IELTS test, which you also have to start preparing for in advance and do it within the required timeline so that your offer is becomes now unconditional. what I've noticed is that most UK universities, this for most UK universities, this is a standard requirement, especially if you are from a country where English is not the first language. You are most likely to be required to provide. Although some universities do have waivers for the English test, depending on the country you come from. So you may also need to check for this specific program, what are the English language requirements? Do they exempt your country from submitting that request?
Yeah.
And also, there are those universities which do have an option where you can submit a request to have this English test get waived. So it's also program specific. You can check, and also the required band scores. So for the English test, we have the overall band score required for different courses. Check your course, the band scores. Then also after the overall band score, we also have now the sub band scores for specific components of the test, like speaking, reading, listening, and writing. So you may need to check as you prepare for the English test to ensure you meet the language scores. But at the point of program application, normally you don't have to have done that English test by that time. You can submit it later once you are sure that you are going to study in the UK. But if you are applying for the scholarship, I would really recommend that you do the test early in advance so that you avoid the last minute rush if you get the scholarship.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So thank you so much. So just to get you very clearly now, is the program application, which is more or less like the admission into the particular university for that program that is linked to the scholarship that has funding. So after the program application, is there a separate application for the Allan and Nesta scholarship, or it's linked together?
Again, this is also specific to different universities, and for some universities, I guess it also sometimes change. For instance, for the University of Sheffield last year, the application for the program and the scholarship were open at the same time. So
Okay.
once you get your offer, anyone can fill the form and submit. But now this year, I've seen that they've changed. So you submit your program application. Then from that, they shortlist people who are now eligible to apply for the scholarship.
Okay. Okay.
It's not
So,
like a nomination already, but selecting those who are now eligible to apply for it. So that means not everyone is having access to the link.
okay.
And
Okay.
that again also means that you have to make the quality of your program application, uh, like to make your program application of very good quality so that you have a high chance of getting selected to apply for the scholarship. And
Okay.
again, for the Sheffield one, I see that the deadline for prospective students to have the offer and be eligible for this scholarship was on May 8th. So that means the tips that I may give that are specific to Sheffield may only apply to those who already have offers and are expecting maybe to receive an invite. But for the Aston and the Manchester Metropolitan, I think they still have some time, right? But it's a short time. You need to do your best, make your application within the required timeline. Yeah.
All right. So, thank you so much. I just want us to keep building that foundation step by step. And just to recap a bit for the program requirement. So, mainly it's just general document that is always required for most institutions in terms of your personal statement, your CV, maybe your transcripts, your certificates, and most importantly IELTS. I know UK are very bent on having an English test, especially if you are from a non English speaking country. Even for some English speaking countries like Nigeria, and I know there are sometimes that they still want us to submit the proof of English test, and there is a cutoff mark for each of the criteria, like Collins already mentioned. So you just need to double check. And at times, you can even send a simple email like requesting for a waiver, especially if you are coming from a country whereby English is your first language. So all this information, always try as much as possible to verify and do the needful in terms of when you are applying for the opportunity. So the first step for the Allan and Nesta Scholarship, especially because our guest speaker is from Sheffield University. So we'll be speaking from the experience of his own application in this particular institution and by extension, maybe to other universities in the UK. But yeah, just to lay the foundation. And again, like we mentioned, it differs from year to year. I know things are always changing every year. So that's why you need to be conversant with the website of the particular institution you are applying for, because the way they did it last year might not be the same way they are doing it this year. So, but the foundation still stands that you are going to apply for admission first before you get to the phase of applying for the scholarship. So, and again, I believe the requirement might also differ from one institution to another institution. So, Collins, I just want us to go a step further in terms of the application process. You mentioned something there about the quality of the program application, which I believe it's about the personal statement. I know for Shenfield, maybe the deadline for the program admission is passed. Maybe you can just relate this to the ones that are still open, which is the Aston and the is it Manchester Metropolitan University? I can't
Yeah,
remember the ones. Okay, yeah.
yeah.
So
I
maybe you
think
can.
after this you can share the link. The
Okay,
links. That, yeah.
okay. So we are going to do a bit of details about the websites, how to go about the application for these two institutions that are currently open. So now I just want you to share more practical tips on how to strengthen their program application. I know for you, you had a program in Masters in Public Health. So how did you go about the personal statement and other documents you actually submitted for the program application? Because I believe this is actually the foundation to get the scholarship or a chance of getting the scholarship itself. So yeah, over to you.
Okay, so for the, as I said before, for Sheffield, it differs slightly with the Aston Ferguson Scholarship. So maybe I'll start with the general. It may also apply to other scholarships in general as well. And now, like for instance, for the Aston, you don't have to, like, they don't nominate you based on your program application. That means their focus is more on your scholarship application. But you see now for the Sheffield, it's opposite. It's based on the quality of your program
Yeah.
application,
Okay.
and then they select you, then send you the link to apply. So
Okay.
I think I'll try to balance the two. And now, as I said before, this is one of the most straightforward scholarships you'll ever find. It's competitive but very straightforward. For one, I think while applying for the scholarship itself, this is now separate from the program, of course, where you have to make the attachment. For the scholarship itself, I only had like two questions on my career goal and volunteer experiences. So I had to prepare them offline before now I open the application link and submit. And I had no request for any attachment specifically for the scholarship form. Was just to fill the form, then submit the two questions.
Yes.
Although for those who already have offers from the University of Sheffield and are waiting whether they'll be selected, the questions may be different this time round. For us, it was two questions on career goal and now something around volunteer experiences. So maybe you may need now to start practicing questions that may come. What are your possible responses? Now, moving deeper into the application tips, let's say, for instance, now in your scholarship application, you want to talk about, for instance, your career goal. This is not this is not like the only way that like the only success tip for every scholarship application. Of course, different people have their own ways of making the application strong. So this is, don't take this as the only successful tip. So you may need to use your own tip which you feel is better than it. So the first thing that works for me for any application, I normally try as much as possible to show clarity on the problem I want to solve. You see, for a scholarship, someone wants to invest a huge amount of money in you. So you have to show really that you are the person they are looking for. So I normally um, be, I normally start by clearly defining what the problem I want to solve, then now link it back to my career goals. That's still under the career goal question. For instance, like last year, in one of my experiences, I was working as a monitoring and evaluation officer at the Danish Refugee Council. So one of my experiences was working with other colleagues to assess emerging protection issues such as GBV, mental health issues among refugees in various refugee camps in Kenya. So I defined the problem based on the findings I found at my workplace. And I tried to quantify this problem. For instance, uh, I talked of the vulnerabilities to climate change, how it has caused displacement of thousands of refugees in the north, and is causing outbreak of infectious diseases based on these findings. So that's the my problem statement. So I started with the problem. Thousands of refugees are getting displaced in these specific locations, and while others are experiencing disease outbreaks and malnutrition based due to climate change. And now from that, now I wanted to link it to a development problem. For instance, one of the sustainable development goals is to reduce child mortality. So I linked it to show the urgency of this problem, that if this problem is not solved, we are going to lag as a country in terms of achieving target, for instance, 3.1, Sustainable Development Target 3.1 to do this. So once my problem was very clear, it's now when I clearly stated my overall goal to link by linking it back to this problem. So I said, this experience has motivated my overall goal to conduct global health research and use the findings to advocate for climate resilient health systems that can cater for the needs of the refugees. So you see, I began with the problem, the overall goal in the same introduction problem. You don't have to talk much about the problem. Just two sentences is enough to hook your reader. And you don't have to state the statement based on literature or from your workplace. The problem can be in your own village or in your own community that you yourself have experienced. So we have different ways. You can start it as a story, but try to quantify the problems. For instance, what percentage is estimated to suffer this problem? And what is the urgency? Why do we need to solve it now? Then the overall goal statement in the same introduction statement. This experience has motivated my overall goal to conduct global health research and use the evidence to advocate for climate resilient health systems. So that was the first paragraph. Introduce the problem. I introduced the problem and the overall goal. Then now in the second paragraph, I wanted to show what steps have I taken to solve this problem, to show that I'm passionate about solving this problem. Sorry, um, in my goal statement, in my overall goal statement, I also mentioned the program and the the scholarship. For instance, these experiences have motivated my application for the Master of Public Health at the University of Sheffield and the Allan Nesta Ferguson Scholarship to gain necessary skills in international development practice and global health and use the skills to conduct research and advocate for climate resilient health systems. So I've linked the overall goal to the problem. Now in from paragraph 2, I'm showing now my journey, the journey I've taken to solve this problem. And now I started from, can start from your volunteer experiences right from your, can be your undergraduate degree, can be while you are still young. So everyone's story is different. So write your own story. In my case, I started being passionate about maternal and child health from my undergraduate studies, and I engaged in several volunteer activities. So I started from there, step by step, up to now where I am at. So, in your volunteer experiences, don't just say, for instance, you trained women in village X in agriculture. Try to quantify. Maybe you estimate, it can be an estimate. So, maybe you trained 400 women in agriculture in village X, and not just the training. Have you observed any outcome in their lives? Because it's about changing other people's lives in your volunteering. So once you set you set your first sentence on your volunteer experience, what outcomes have you observed? If, for instance, you trained women on employability, how many, for instance, have you seen get employed as a result of that? So show that change in your story, not just the number, the activity you did, but the change that came up as a result of that volunteer activity. So I built up on that in a story format. Now from the undergraduate degree where I did some awareness sessions on maternal and child health, then I moved to how this advanced into a digital platform which I created to share maternal and child health information with mothers translated to different Kenyan local languages. And the page reached over 20,000 mothers. And now the outcome I communicated in that is that I could receive messages from some mothers who will tell me this information has been useful. I've been able to treat my child this way based on what I learned from your page. So those are the outcomes, the stories, tell the story. Now, from that site, you advance until where you are at now to show you've done something already. That's part of what the committee is looking for. Once you've demonstrated that, instead of just saying you are passionate about something, show by what you did and the changes that resulted from that. So once you do that, um, that is in personal statement. Oh, sorry, I think there was a bit of confusion. I actually confused the personal statement with the career goal. You were working on career goal. So we started with the the problem, the overall goal, and now you need to divide your goal into three main goals. We have the short-term goal, the medium-term goal, and the long-term goal. Short-term goal is immediately after your master's. Medium-term goal is 5 years after your master's, an estimation. The long-term goal is 10 years after the program. So short-term goal is whereby immediately after your studies, what do you want to do? And be realistic. Don't be overambitious that it sounds to the scholarship committee that this is not possible immediately after the master's. So be realistic and very specific, measurable with your goal. For instance, in my case, instead of saying immediately after studies, I will contribute to climate resilient health systems, I actually said, I was very specific. I said, I plan to conduct as a participatory study with over 400 women, with over 400 refugee women in Kakuma, Kenya, to identify the climate health vulnerabilities. Very specific. So a study, you can measure one study on this and this. And now, how is this study going to help? Then I went ahead and said, I'm going to use the findings from this study to write a policy brief, because in my statement, refugees are excluded because in national climate adaptation plans, because they don't participate much in policies. So I said I'll use the study to come up with a policy brief and present it particularly to who? To the county government of that region on the climate health vulnerability of refugees, to ensure that they're included in government policies. And now the expected outcome was that there will be response in terms of building the health systems to be including also of the refugee needs. So that was the short term goal. Then the medium term, now you should build up on your goals. For instance, in the short term, if you talk about the study, you should build up on that study. You should now not divert into anything else that shows your goals are disorganized. Because for you to reach the long term goal, you have to take some steps. You don't need to get goals that don't speak to each other. So in the medium term, I talked about how I plan to scale up this study to other regions or where we have refugees in Kenya, and also conduct the study with the refugee enumerators, targeting how many women in that other region, and also now write another policy brief with that. And during that time, I'd now start doing like kind of monitoring with the other people in on the ground on about the progress of maybe implementation of that policy brief. That was my medium term goal. And now my long term goal was majorly on a PhD, because I have an interest in modeling of climate sensitive infectious diseases. So I said I will do a PhD on infectious disease modeling, focusing on climate change. And I would invest in building the capacity of other African researchers to model climate sensitive diseases and contribute to policy driven interventions. So that's basically about the career goals. So number one, be clear on the problem you want to solve before you even state your goal to be competitive enough. State the overall goal from the problem that links to the problem, and now divide your goals into three: the short term, medium term, and long term. And be very specific with your goals and measurable, and they can be achieved Don't be over ambitious. Maybe after masters, you say you will conduct a study in your entire country. That sounds unrealistic. So just begin step by step. It can just be as a small space, just a village. You conduct a study, you talk to your people, understand their problems, then do something. Then another important thing I almost forgot in your career goals, also it can be in a standalone program paragraph or within the goals. At least show how this you will apply some skills from the course into these goals. For instance, in the short-term goal, you may mention, I will use my skills gained in research methods and epidemiology module to conduct a study. So try also as much as possible to link to the program to show that you understand this program. Yeah. So those are my main tips for the scholarship.
Scholarship application. Yeah, thank you so much. That was like really, really, really detailed and valuable. I think even as much as possible, this is what most of us need for our scholarship, regardless of the scholarship you're applying for. I think these tips is shared is really how do I call it, relatable. Like you can use this tip to apply to other scholarships, because this is how I also structured most of my essays as far as I can remember for both my master's scholarship and even the PhD. So the basic to start with, I know he mentioned something at the beginning. This is not like the standard approach, but I think this is one of a convincing way to actually show to those that wants to invest million of dollars in you that okay, you are ready to solve a particular problem and you are worth investing this amount of money into. So yes, you can start any way that you feel like it's personal to you. That's why they call it personal statement or whatever reason it's being called. So but then let's try to make it something that can be more compelling, more convincing, because you're not the only one applying for this scholarship. We have thousands of people, and at the end of the day, maybe they just want to pick two or three people for that particular scholarship. And what is your chance of standing out is in the clarity of the message you are able to provide, the specific things that they are looking for. And that was everything that Collins have actually put out in what he mentioned. The first thing is you must have a problem. Don't just say I'm passionate about. Tell us a problem, and it can be something related to your local region, maybe national or something global. And the way he structured it, I think it went from local to national and to global, because when we talk about climate change and the disease and how it affects women, refugees, it's something that it's beyond is the local region. It relates to the national and also relates to global crisis. Is everywhere, not particular in Kenya, but start small, something within your own environment. Try to build a story around it and quantify it. I love the way you put it, like make it something measurable. Don't just say, okay, you want to help women. How many? Is it just one? Is it just 10? Is it just 100? So, okay, 10% of these people are suffering from so. I know from my own particular study, I was looking into malnutrition in children and women as well. So with the issue of low animal protein and the whole like, so I was trying to say, okay, in Nigeria, in this particular region, like 10% of children are affected with malnutrition called kwashiorkor. We have children with long head, small, tiny. So you need to be able to communicate clearly that specific problem that you are passionate about solving. And now that skill, that study you want to undertake, how does it contribute to your long-term goal? And you have to break, I love the way you break it down, like short-term, medium-term, and long-term goal. And it was like it was building a house. And you can imagine if your foundation is not strong and you are trying to build a maybe a 20-story building on a very shallow foundation, it's not going to stand. Even those that are reading it will be like, oh no, 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 something is wrong. So you must align your goal, like your short term must flow into the medium term and even the long term goal. Because just imagine the way you put the short term goal, like, okay, I was trying to conduct just a small study with a little group of women to form a policy brief that can help them to improve, to address the situation, and from there move on for the medium term and the PhD in climate modeling. So everything is just consistent, very specific, very measurable, something you can, I think that's the SMART acronym, measurable, achievable, reliable, and time bound. Yeah, I think that's the concept around it. So these are just, I'm just trying to reiterate it because he was able to explain everything in such a way that even I myself can always follow anytime I want to apply for a scholarship. And this is just the secret. There's no, how do I call it? There is no one particular one size fits all. But to be honest, this is just one particular strategy you can always follow, regardless of the scholarship you are applying for. To be honest, either the Allan and Nesta scholarship or other scholarship, people wants to see what you are trying to bring on board in order to solve a solution either within your community or in a global space. So thank you so much, Collins, for that. You were able to do justice to the question. But just to round it up, because I know this is, we just have few minutes left, to been able to, you've been able to go detail into the scholarship application. For the Aston and the Metropolitan that is currently opened, do you think the scholarship essays or the scholarship question is different from the one you just highlighted in your previous conversation?
Yes, so although I've not seen the Sheffield ones because it will be on an invitation only, I think definitely it will be different because different universities have different things they're looking at. And I think before I dive into that, so we managed to cover the career goals. And for the first part where I was talking more volunteer experiences, I think for the Sheffield, I had that question last year. And now the tips I shared are the things, is how I approach the question, showing how my volunteer experiences have evolved over time, and not showing just showing the activities but quantifying them. How many people, if you did something, how did it change their lives? You can come up with a very nice story. I know everyone in the world have like has their own creativity. There are people who can develop very compelling stories that can really impress people. So in the process of developing your story, ensure that you quantify and you show the outcomes. How has that changed the lives of people? And now for the Aston, I see the questions are a bit different. I think because for Aston, it's not on invitation only. They've just, the questions are there. Uh, Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen, please?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is the course website. I mean the scholarship website for this particular scholarship at Aston, and we have the eligible courses. Um, each and everyone can check at their own time after the meeting. Can also check the eligibility, how to apply, and what happens next. And also be keen on the deadlines to, I see for this is 29th of May.
Mm.
And you see the questions are down here. So it's very straightforward. That's why I really love this scholarship. And so we have a space here where you will write the course application number for your particular program. Once you get the offer, you will see the application number in your offer letter. So you indicate that number here. And now we have the scholarship questions, which might be quite different from the Sheffield one. So, like, now, please tell us about yourself, a brief description about your interest and hobbies. Again, as I said before, do not say, I'm passionate about this and this. Show them in your own story. From your own story, someone can tell. Don't tell them directly. For instance, I would really give, if I were to apply for this scholarship, I'll give, for instance, an example like this. This is a hypothetical one because I'm not from Nigeria. It's a hypothetical one I made. For instance, when I was 14, my younger sister spent 3 weeks in a hospital bed in Ibadan fighting malaria, while the medicine that would have saved her in 2 days sat in a warehouse because our local pharmacy had been out of stock for 11 days after the supply truck from Lagos broke down in heat again. She survived, but the child in the next bed did not. And I decided that if I ever grew up to understand how medicines worked, I would spend my life figuring out why heat destroys them before they reach the people who need them the most. So you start with a compelling story, and not just any story. Ensure that it is a story that links to your profession of interest, because this is tell us about yourself, your interest and hobbies. Instead of saying I'm passionate about, show it in your story. And now, after the first paragraph, now you can move on to maybe talk about the magnitude of the problem. For instance, Nigeria has 220 million people and fewer than 40 pharmacists per 100,000 citizens in most rural areas. A gap grew up inside rather than read about. Sorry, a gap grew inside. Oh, there's a confusion. Maybe you can now start showing how you started to use your hobby to show that you are interested in this topic that we talked about in the first paragraph. For instance, if your hobby is reading, you start talking about how you started to read journals to understand why this question you've just said here. I would spend my life figuring out why heat destroys medicines before they reach the people who need them the most. So you can show your hobbies, how you read journals, and currently, you can talk about your current hobbies. Like I run a small science newsletter, reaching out 500 people, for instance. This is the quantification I was talking about across West Africa, mostly from community health workers who cannot afford journal paywalls, and all the other things. So it's about telling your story and how you've used your hobby to try and answer your curiosity about the problem. Then now the other question let me go back to the site. The other question is on describe how this scholarship will enable you to access your desired Aston postgraduate program, which may not have been possible without the financial support. So this scholarship particularly seeks to support those people who really need support, who do not have the financial capacity to fund a UK degree. So you can explain in terms of the financial challenges you faced since your previous education could be undergraduate. Maybe you can say only like while saying the truth, it could be that your undergraduate degree was funded on loans that maybe you took somewhere. For instance, you can show how you faced such challenges. And now maybe you don't have a source of income and you cannot able to afford a UK master's degrees. You can talk about all that. You can even give some estimations that you earn below this, and it cannot even reach 4% of the tuition fee. So you can talk about such. Then we have another question on what are your career aspirations after the study and how will the intended postgraduate Aston program open your job opportunities. This is same as the career goals. I think we've already discussed that and we don't need to discuss it again for the purpose of time. So you see, it's straightforward. We only have like One, two,
Three.
three questions only, and you submit. No attachments.
Hmm.
It's so simple.
Interesting.
But ensure you tell your real story. And maybe I can now go to the Manchester Metropolitan briefly. I think for this, I may not be able to go through the questions because of time.
You can go
Uh,
ahead, even if it's just 5 minutes, so
yeah,
the audience
sure.
can.
Yeah, so you can share these links later. For the Metropolitan, we also have these three eligible courses. They can check it out. You can check it out. The eligibility check if your country is eligible, how to apply is very straightforward. Yeah. So I think that's it for the tips.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you so much for contribution. Sorry, 1 minute, please. Do you still want to share your screen?
No, sorry.
Okay.
I left the meeting by mistake.
All right, that's fine. So I just want to be sure, like you, maybe you are done with the screen sharing. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Collins. I think that was a very detailed one for you to have even covered the questions for asking universities and as well as the metropolitan one. I think, yeah, because of our time, we might not be able to go in details, but these are the for the two universities that are currently open for this Allan scholarship, like we mentioned in the beginning. So this funding trust actually partners with this university to fund aspiring scholars from developing countries, and they have a specific programs to which they fund in this university. So you want to check them out. The questions he has give a thorough breakdown from that of Sheffield University, which I think in one way or the other is relatable to that of Aston and Metropolitan University. And he was even able to answer some other questions for the Aston University, like describe yourself, your interests. So the main thing is like you want to show them how you were able to do all these things, not just tell like, okay, I did this and this. How? What was the impact? What was the outcome? What did you gain? How were you able to? So you tell them is like you are telling someone the story of your life, but then you want to make it in a very more convincing way that can convince them to offer you this opportunity you are looking forward to. So and like it's not like other scholarship that has like, I know if you're applying for Commonwealth, maybe how many questions? Maybe 16 or 20.
11.
Okay, 11 questions.
Yeah.
So, and if you're applying for chairman, you know how many questions you are going to answer. So, but now this is just a scholarship that asks you for only 3 questions. You are not, and it's even word limit. I see 300 words there. So, it's not something that is, you need to sit down and start crafting the entire words. It's something that is very straightforward once you know the structure or what they are expecting you to put in. So, and to be honest, it's not even beyond your reach. They just want to know why you are applying for the scholarship and how it aligns to your career goal. That's just the two key things I think I can sum up from everything that Collins has said and even from what he has showed us from the website. So that's just the important thing to note when applying for this particular opportunity. So our time is fast spent, and I just want us to take few questions before we actually round up for today's session. So, in case you have a question for Collins so far on what he has discussed or what he has shared about the Allan and Nesta Ferguson scholarship, you can drop them in the comments section. And okay, I can also use this minute to also welcome people that I missed out from in the beginning. So, Lovett, thank you so much for joining us. And I see Azizi was like he's learning a lot from this session. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time for joining us. Jefta, you are welcome. To whosoever this is, I don't know. But yeah, thank you for this comment. Um, Jefta, oh, from Botswana, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. I'm sure the time difference is going to be a big one. So Thank you for joining us. I have someone that have a question here. So the person is saying, okay, thank you very much to the organizer and the guest speaker for today. Please, concerning community development and volunteering, how should one narrow down a work done by a group of people, like a team, to highlight personal achievement? For example, your team trained 20 farmers. How do you narrow it down to highlight personal work? So can you go ahead?
Thanks for the question. And I think I've seen it a lot of time, especially when it comes to achieving scholarship leadership essay, or sometimes it gets difficult to specifically talk about something you did as an individual in a teamwork. So I would say maybe you evaluate what particular tasks did you yourself do to contribute to that overall training. Was it maybe uh, developing training modules? Was it conducting 2 out of 4 of the sessions? So just evaluate what specifically did you do in the team, because during teamwork there is always that delegation of tasks to different members. Do this, do this. So you talk specifically about what you did as a person to contribute to the overall uh, team activity.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I think that's very clear and straightforward there. Like I know at times it's difficult to quantify it, but then you can I know for one line in my CV, I was a team lead for a particular team on a project. And I mentioned that okay, as this team lead coordinating this team, I was able to lead the team to achieve this so I'm sort of saying a team achievement, but I'm trying to put what I did specifically. I led the team to achieve a 20% increase in I can't remember what the project was all about, but then you can just find a way to structure it or tweak it around that can still convey what you did personally, even when you are talking about your team success. So that's
Sorry,
it.
and also to add on that, I think uh, when, for instance, you are a leader in a development program, don't just say a title. For instance, I was a president of this and this. Focus on what you actually did. Because leadership is not just about, like, I was this position. For most scholarship, you have to demonstrate. For instance, if you inspired women to take a step to do something, that's leadership. It's not the title itself, but that inspiration that people drew from you and actually did something. That's leadership. So be careful also with the titles. Just mentioning the titles and not be clear. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think thank you so much for adding that to the point I raised. So you must be able to, everything is not even about the title itself, it's about what you did with that leadership position
Yeah.
that you had. Okay, Kubira is asking, can I still get an invitation to apply for a scholarship if I have a conditional offer from Sheffield?
Okay, I'm not sure. Let me check their page and confirm. So from their page, they're saying that shortlisted applicants will be invited to apply. If you've not been contacted by the end of the day on Friday, 15th May, you may have not been selected. So they are not specific on whether they'll only send the links to people, I mean to the offer holders with unconditional offer. But what I think, that's my own thinking. I am not in the panels. I think even having the conditional offer won't buy you if you are an eligible applicant.
Mm.
Yeah. So I was just giving that disclaimer because I'm not very sure. I'm just trying a good guess.
All right, no
Yeah.
problem. So I think that's actually said it from what you read out now. So it seems they are going to send it out to maybe some selected people that they feel like they are well qualified for the scholarship. So let me just put it like that. So that's just it. It might not be on the basis that you have the conditional offer.
Yeah,
It's be
true.
like, okay, yeah, they have selected people that they are going to send out the link to apply for the scholarship. But
Oh,
with
sorry,
scholarship,
just to assure you, I remember, sorry for interrupting. I remember last year I got the offer without having met the English language condition. So I think that's not a barrier.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, all right. So, yeah, thank you so much for that. And I'm not seeing any question at the moment in the how do I call it, in the chat session. But Fishayo is saying thank you so much for the information and the host and the speaker. And Kumbira is saying thank you. I think we are able to answer the questions clearly for her. So yeah, that's going to be it for this session. But then maybe for me, I have one or two more questions. I was trying to look at our time, but since we don't have much questions from our audience, I can go ahead to ask my question. So maybe being an Allan Ferguson scholar, what has been your experience like studying in the UK in terms of the academic system, the support, the networking opportunity, the academic life? Just give us a glimpse into what comes with being a Ferguson scholar in the UK.
I would say uh, the UK academic environment is quite different from my previous education system because from the moment I started my lectures, things were quite different. Because from my education system, I was used to just the normal examinations for each and every module or unit. But to my surprise, I found out the kind of assessments here are quite different. For some modules, you may be required to write essays. For some, you may be required to write exams. For some, you may be required to
Okay.
write a group work, and they actually grade all of them. So if you are given an essay, you take it very seriously because it's some of them are graded as 100%. So you have to do a lot of literature review. And that takes me to another thing I learned from here. The focus of education system is to build your critical thinking skills. So, for instance, you don't have to summarize papers in your essay. You have to say does the information you get from this paper mean. So it's more of evaluative of what you read rather than summarizing. So I had to catch up quickly. To be honest, I was not very good at essay writing. But one thing I can assure you is that the UK education system in most universities, they are very supportive. They're willing to organize a lot of seminars for you to learn how to write essays. We even have supportive staff. We have staff contact hours. You can go for personalized support. So that made me to feel at home because I attended a lot of seminars, consulted different staff, and I improved on my essay writing skills. And the in terms of academic system, I think it has really improved my critical thinking skill. I would say I'm a very different person compared with the time I landed here. And in terms of social life, I would be very honest. For the first time, in each time you travel into a new place, it comes with challenges of um, settling. You have to take some time to settle, adapt to new environment, new weather. But I found people to be very friendly, particularly in Sheffield City. But you have to adapt to new weather, new food, new culture. So that's the bit of it. But once you are aware, at least you will have it with your mind. You will travel with your mind prepared for it. For instance, the UK has 4 seasons. I traveled in September last year and I had to adapt to the weather. So I carried two jackets because I didn't want to carry so much in my luggage bag because they would charge me more. So I just carried two winter jackets and I knew I would get some here. So and then so that's to prepare for the weather, and then for another thing, for especially for the winters, we have like the wearable hot water bottles because sometimes it gets extremely cold, so you have to prepare for that. And sometimes even you need some supplements, vitamin D supplement,
Yeah, yeah.
because sometimes there is no sun, and they recommend that to keep your bones strong. And yeah, so overall, overall, I think it's been a great experience, even though challenging, because I've learned a lot, the new culture, the new British culture, foods, and everything.
Yeah.
And everything is nice. Everyone is nice to me. And in terms of networking, I think for this particular scholarship, for Sheffield, I think we have so many opportunities, especially for not so many, I would say we have some opportunities for you, especially for those who would like to pursue international development. We have a field class whereby you travel into another country, do a practical research work to be able to expose you beyond what the research methods you have learned in class. How do you practice them in the field? So
Hmm.
we like this year we traveled to Nepal, and such opportunities would be funded as additional funding by the scholarship administration. So
Wow.
for my case, I told them I would not be able to fund the field class, and they told me not to worry, and they funded my field class. So especially for those who like to do international development, you have an opportunity for the field class and also networking events, especially at the University of Sheffield. You have lots of networking events with different people, with companies that employ people.
Okay.
So that's a great experience.
Wow. That was an awesome one anyway. Like just imagine how you were able to integrate so much into the academic system, the culture, and even the social life over there. To be honest, for most international students, there is no one that doesn't have that story to add to how they actually adapt into the system. It's because it's just different from where you are coming from. So the system is totally different and it needs some level of time to be able to find your rhythm and integrate into that system. But the good thing is that they have that support available because they also know that it's not easy for we international systems. So they provide that support system in terms of how to improve your academic writing. They have a lot of webinars, they have career fairs, and they have a lot of also social activities just to keep you moving and the like. So it's very important to have this at the back of your mind when preparing. Maybe you have a scholarship at the end of the day, regardless which one you have, that you are going to experience this weather shock, culture shock, food shock. But the good thing is you are there and you are able to learn at your own pace and able to integrate as soon as possible. And like you mentioned, there are a lot of opportunities that comes with being on a fully funded scholarship. You can imagine going on a field trip on a full funding. So that's another additional benefit that you might not even foresee at the beginning of your journey. So it's just important to invest as much as possible when you are applying to these scholarships. Um, Kumbira is just asking, I know we answered this question earlier on, that no attachment for the scholarship. Yes. I think for maybe for Shenfield and the Aston that you actually showed.
For, for most universities, they normally don't ask for attachment at the scholarship in the application form, unless maybe there may be changes by the University of Sheffield. So it will depend. Once they share the links, there may be, but I don't think so. Because
Okay.
for most universities, they're just simply the questions which you answer and submit.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. So thank you so much for that. Thank you, Miracle. Thank you for joining us. You're welcome. And finally, Collins, what is that one advice you give to anyone that is applying for the Allan and Ferguson and Nesta Ferguson Scholarship this year?
I would say tell your story, and while telling this story, ensure that you communicate it in such a way that, for instance, if you were the one who was reading that story, you'll really be impressed with the way this story is packaged, and just ensure that it's an honest story. Don't fabricate it. Just tell your honest story. Don't have to worry a lot, and your unique story is the one that will set you apart, and also how you communicate it out. Just try as much as possible. If you can use the tips that we've shared, use them, and never give up.
Mm, 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 mm,
Yeah. Also, if you identify other open scholarships, don't put all your hope in one scholarship. Apply for others as well to increase your chance.
mm.
I remember I applied for around five. I got two, so I chose one.
Okay. I'm curious, which one was the second one?
The other one was City St. George's, University of London.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for an MSc in global health.
Okay. Well, all right. So that's
Yeah.
an interesting one. Maybe we'll talk about that later on. Yeah. So okay.
No.
Thank you so much for that advice. And I think the key thing is tell your story, like you mentioned. Tell your story and be real, be authentic with your story. Don't give up. Don't give up. So they used to say that quitters never win and winners never quit. So in the journey of scholarship, I know it might not be easy, it might not be encouraging, but then please don't give up. Just keep pushing until you win. And the last thing is like don't put all your eggs in one basket. Try as much as possible to apply for as much as possible opportunities that you are eligible for. You never can say which one you are going to get at the end of the day. So thank you so much, Collins, for this very insightful and practical session. I love the way you were able to go deep with all the questions, especially in terms of applying for the scholarship. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your experience, your story, and in guiding our audience out there. And to everyone that has joined us for this live session, thank you so much for your time. I know we are in different time zone. Thank you so much for showing up, for engaging with us, and for being part of this learning space. So I see someone asking if the link for today's recording is available. So yes, in case you missed any of this session, you can replay the session. Is on our YouTube channel and is also on LinkedIn as well. Just go to my event page on LinkedIn, you'll see it there. And when you type in the name Omobolanle Kalinikoshi on YouTube, you would also see the session recorded on YouTube. Um,
Sorry.
Sorry, I think I'm seeing one more question. Sorry, I'm already rounding up. Okay, Etim is asking, thank you for the insightful knowledge, sir. I would like to ask, does the scholarship cover visa fees?
For Sheffield, I don't think so. For Sheffield, last year they, let me just confirm again. For Sheffield, it's a full tuition fee waiver and a stipend of 12,500, which I estimate to be enough for your living cost, but it does not cover your visa cost, so you have to um, pay for your visa cost and also the travel cost. And maybe something I forgot that is very important also for the aspiring scholars, I mean aspiring students, is to the course website. Be very familiar with your course, understand the course in details. For instance, check the modules, check the different offerings, maybe different projects. If it's a course that has some projects in it, the mode of delivery, so that whenever you are linking your goals, how the course will help you to achieve your goals, you can be very specific. Maybe these modules will help me to do this in my short term goal, these skills from these modules. So that's also a very important point because they're funding you to study that course. So you have to try as much as possible to link your goals with the modules.
All right, so thank you so much for that particular addition for the application. So thank you so much. Yeah, just make sure you do your findings on the website to be sure of how to navigate the application process. I'm trying to rush up because of our time, but I see a lot of people dropping comments as I was planning to round up. So Kasau Tebal. So when are we having another meeting? So for this particular scholarship series, we have it once every month. So you can just be on the lookout on my LinkedIn page. I'm going to update the next scholarship series. Anyone responding to the question, Kazuro? I don't know. I'm not sure if I got your question correctly, but please, you can always rephrase your question. Um, Okay, you are the one asking. Okay, about my YouTube channel, you can see my name on your screen, Omobolanle Kalinikoshe. Just type that name on your YouTube search engine, and you are going to see my channel as well as other scholarship series that we have done in time past, and you can catch up on this session. So, Emmanuel, yeah, thank you so much for joining us. I know this is your first time, so in case you are interested in joining other session, you can actually check out my YouTube channel. Okay, so for this particular program, we are actually talking about the Allan and Nesta Ferguson Scholarship, and we've done justice about the application process, what it entails, and the benefits. And because of our time, we might not be able to give a short recap, but you can always go back to my YouTube channel. The session is recorded, and you can have access to watch it over again. So I think that's how you can get the best on what we've discussed so far today. Um, Tebal, oh yeah, thank you so much. You are welcome. You are welcome. So I think that's all the comments I'm seeing in the comment section out there. So yeah, thank you once again for joining us this evening. And I just want you to stay connected with the Agri Scholars Mentoring Hub for more sessions on scholarships, career growth, and academic opportunities, especially within Europe and beyond. So if you found this session helpful, I want you to share with someone that is preparing for scholarships. You can always rewatch the sessions and take your notes and make sure you apply what you've learned from today's session into your next scholarship application. So yeah, I think that's how much you can that's how best you can take advantage of everything we've discussed so far today. So once again, thank you so much. And on that note, I would like to close for today's session with a short closing prayer, just as we started. So, Father, we thank you for how far you've helped us today. Thank you for the knowledge that our speakers have shared. Thank you for the wisdom. Thank you for so many insights he has been able to share on this particular scholarship application. And we know that for our audience who have been able to listen, that you grant them the wisdom to apply everything into their application journey, and they will be able to return with greater testimonies in the name of Jesus. Thank you, Father, because you've heard and answered. For in Jesus' name we've prayed. Amen. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone, once again. Until we'll see you again in our next scholarship series. We want to wish you success in your application journey. Do have a lovely evening and a nice weekend. Bye.
Have a lovely